Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Ron, and today I need to repot this big mama Philodendron pink princess. So I had this plant for about a year and 4 months. I first got it as a tiny little baby in I think it was a 4-inch pot from Peace, Love, and Happiness Club. It had 2 plants in that pot. Oh, the light just turned off. That grow light just turned off automatically because it's set on a timer. It needs to be reset because it's not 100% accurate with the time because it's still 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I think it could use the extra light. So I'm gonna turn it back on so we have, so we have enough light for this video. Okay, so before I was so rudely interrupted by that light, I've had this plant for about a year and 4 months. I've never propagated it before, and today I might do just that because as you can see, guys, it's getting so tall. I think it's about almost 4 feet tall now, and there's a whole lot of leaves. As you can see towards the bottom, it is becoming, ooh! Okay, let's not touch it for a while. It's actually tipped over more than a couple of times on its own because it is getting really top heavy. It's still in that white nursery pot that I repotted it into to, what is that? Like a 5 or 6 inch pot or something like that. And ever since I repotted it, it grew so fast and so big, as you can see. But it did tip over a couple of times. I think a few leaves kind of broke in the process, but that's okay because it's still filled with a lot of beautiful leaves. This leaf right up here is one of the newest leaves from one of the stems, and it's like completely pink. So that's cool. I hope the next leaf that comes out of that though has some of the normal green color because we don't want completely variegated leaves, right? Because they will definitely brown and crisp and fall off. At the bottom, it did drop some leaves, not from the plant tipping over, but from spider mites, I believe. And the spider mites came from, where are you? That plumeria tree behind me. No matter how many times I would treat that plant, I would treat it with systemic granules. I've probably done that like a handful of times throughout the whole last year of 2022. And within months, the spider mites always came back. I would even like wash them off with a hose to completely drown them and like knock them off the leaves, but they would come back within like 1 or 2 months each time. And unfortunately, with me like having to spend a lot of time with my kitchen renovation and architectural exams and life and things like that, the spider mites have jumped from plant to plant. Thankfully, most of my plants are okay, but I think this one has kind of suffered. The infestation really wasn't that bad, but I think it was becoming bad because the bottom leaves were probably the most affected because those leaves fell off. But that's okay because we all know old leaves fall off anyway, right? And the leaves at the bottom were those tiny little baby leaves. So even though they're beautiful, they're not much of a loss anyway because I've got these huge adult leaves. Are they adult leaves? I don't know, mature leaves. Anyway, I will upgrade the pot into this nursery pot that is kind of serving as a cache pot right now. Actually, the cache pot is a thicker plastic nursery pot. Is it a nursery pot? It's a plastic pot. Nursery pots are like those thinner plastic material, right? But it's white in color, and I'm trying to convert all of my plants into white pots just for aesthetic purposes. This pot I believe is an 8-inch pot, so it will definitely be an upgrade. Let me show you all of the steps along the way. I'm gonna be probably replacing all of the soil. I'm going to show you how I mix my soil if I still have all of my ingredients because it's been a while. I should though, I should. Okay, so as you can see, currently it has a 4-foot tall coco coir pole, but here at the bottom, you can see some of these original leaves are still hanging on even though they've gotten paler in color. They'll probably fall off pretty soon because they're becoming a little bit more shriveled. Yeah, I don't think these have been affected by the spider mites, but like this leaf right here, you can see some of the damage right there. You see the leaf starting to dimple because it's losing tissue, and the cellular structures are beginning to die because this spot right here, there was actually some webbing, although it's kind of hard to see. You don't really see spider mites moving about with the naked eye. You kind of really have to get up close like that to see any moving around. But in my experience, the red spider mites, you can see them more clear than the white spider mites, just because they're like very, very vibrant and red. The white ones, you kind of sometimes mistake them for like dust and whatnot. Here's another example. And I'm not talking about like the brown part here where it got ripped off. That's like physical damage. I'm talking more about like this where it's dimpled. There's some significant damage in there if you can see. And in this case, the damage from the spider mites come from on top of the leaves versus the bottom. It depends on the anatomy of the plant if the spider mites decide to, wreak havoc on the top versus the bottom. But here's another example. You can see the dimples. But yeah, if I left this plant alone for just like another week or two, the spider mites would have definitely damaged like this entire leaf, and this entire leaf, and this entire leaf. This is another example. And then slowly make their way up this plant. But thankfully, all of these upper leaves, they seem to be okay, with the exception of some here, like this spot right here. That is a spider mite problem area. I know this because a few weeks ago I saw some webbing there, and you can see it's actually gone from green to brown, and that's not good. But I did treat it when I found it that one day, and then so the browning is kind of just limited to that one area. See, in the bottom, you can't really see much damage, right? It's mostly from the top. On other plants, like my Philodendron melanochrysum, the spider mites like to hang out in the back. And then they kind of damage the tissue, and they produce all of these tiny little white, not white, but yellow spots, which you can kind of see from the front of the leaf. Something like that. But from the back, you can see all that damage. So yeah, I recently sprayed this down in the sink. So I think that's okay. There was even spider mites on this alocasia. On this one, they like to hang out on the top. And I think it's because there's like all of these ridges for them to hide. And they love that. They love ridges. Same thing goes for like these alocasias. They like to hang out on top because it's so textured, right? Ooh, look at this black velvet leaf. Beautiful. That's a new leaf that just unfurled. And then of course, the plumeria, they love to hang out on the top, but sometimes they do hang out on the bottom as well. So yeah, I don't really know why it's the top or the bottom. Either way, I don't like them on my plants. I think I've talked about thrips affecting the spider mites, but I have successfully gotten rid of the thrips, and I think it's thanks to the systemic granules, but the spider mites, for some reason, they've persisted. So, and specifically the red spider mites, I need to find another treatment for that. If you guys know of any treatments for like red spider mites specifically, let me know because I don't know how to get rid of them. And also, fungus gnats are a thing of the past now, and I think it's also thanks to the systemic granules, but also the liquid form of the same chemical. It's called Bonide Tree and Shrub Insect Control. So this is the product that I use from Bonide. It's systemic granules. I think this is the one that everyone uses. But also from Bonide is this guy right here. This is the annual Tree and Shrub Insect Control. But you will see in the active ingredients, they use the same thing. Imidacloprid. The granules use 0.22% of that, whereas the liquid uses 1.47%. But that's highly dependent on how much you actually mix into your water. And I kind of just eyeball it, like in this watering can, I'll put like, I don't know, a quarter cup of that liquid in this full watering can. Yeah, anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now. Let's just get to repotting. Okay, welcome to the closer look. And sorry, I'm kind of limited on space. My plants are getting bigger and bigger, so I'm like surrounded in a jungle right now. Here it is. She is that big. You can't see her completely. Here is the nursery pot. I think it's like 5 or 6 inches, something like that. That's what that looks like. And here, look, I'm holding it up by the coco-coir pole. Here is the base. Well, this one, the base, like 6, 7, 8 inches of that is completely bare because all of the leaves from that area fell off. And then on this one, there's like 3 leaves that fell off. Actually, the first one had 7 of the leaves fell off of that one, which is kind of misleading because all of the leaves up here make it look so full. Yes, I am kind of nervous because, you know, this plant is still continuing to grow and I don't want to like affect that growth by messing with the roots, but we're gonna get in there and then see just how crazy the root growth is. Root growth is. I was kind of expecting to see really thick roots in here, but I guess that's not the case. Regardless, I don't see any signs of rot, so that's a really good sign. It's a really good sign that the plant is actually really healthy. Okay, I think that's good enough. For now, I'm just gonna plop her in this trash can while I set up the new pot. Okay, so here is the new pot that I'm gonna be upgrading the plant into. And I believe this is 8 inches, like I mentioned before. And it comes with a saucer, and it has our beloved drainage holes in the bottom. And it's white. I'm going to not let this soil go to waste. So I'm gonna try to put that towards the bottom here. I normally put sphagnum moss in the bottom of my pots to cover the drainage holes, but I don't think anything will really trickle out of those holes because they're so small. So I think I'm just gonna put this here in there just like that. And I already have pre-mixed soil right here. I guess I forgot that I had this, but in here is basically peat moss, perlite, coconut husk, worm castings, sphagnum moss, charcoal, and I believe I put in some mosquito bits in here. I think that's about it, but when I mixed this, that was like, I don't know, half a year ago, and this is not exactly an airtight container. So it's completely dry. And when you dry out soil this much, like there's not any moisture in here at all. As I'm like doing this, it's turning into fine dust particles and I don't want to breathe that in. I'm gonna have to rehydrate this and make sure that, you know, when I water the plant in the end, that all of the soil is completely moist. There is a little bit of soil in there already. I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Right now, the top of this soil is sitting about half an inch to an inch below the rim of the pot. So I think if I put the soil in there, it'll cover it by at least a quarter of an inch to half an inch. And I think that should be okay. Okay, I think she's done. That was pretty easy. Actually, guys, because of how easy that was, I'm gonna redo it because of the perfectionist that I am. I don't like the way that this coco coir pole is like so much farther than the plant itself. And I don't like that because it makes it kind of unstable. So I wanna make that gap smaller. Well, here's the final result, guys. You can see that, excuse me, Pia, you're in the way. You can see that the coco coir pole and the gap to the stems is smaller. I've reduced that a considerable amount. There is still somewhat of a gap, and that's because, you know, I just didn't want to poke the pole into the middle of the root ball. And then it's nicely going up along the pole as if she wants to be there. Okay, so I don't know if I want to propagate her anymore because she looks so much better. She looks a lot more stable. The pot is bigger. It's not as top heavy. It's a little bit on the top heavy side of things, but as soon as I water the plant or water the soil, I think the weight is going to be distributed more towards the pot, and that will be a good thing, especially because the soil right now is really, really dry, so that makes things a little bit lighter. I don't know. You know, it's still wintertime, it's still January, so I think I will take the propagation closer to springtime. The end goal with this is that I want to have a really full, lush-looking Philodendron pink princess. But one thing that I really have to do right now is take the plant outside to give her a really good hose down because we are losing light outside. It's 4:30 in the afternoon and the sun is going down. So let me do that real quick and then I'll bring her back inside. I might have another spot for her somewhere in my living room now. I don't know, we will see. Well, as you can see, I moved her down here in the corner next to the Philly fig, which, by the way, I just wiped the leaves down, finally. Yeah, let me know what you think of her new location. There's not a whole lot of humidity down here, but by the looks of her aerial roots, they don't seem to be, I don't know, they don't really seem to be growing in the humidity that I had in the plant room anyway, so hopefully she does just fine down here. Yeah, maybe in the next video, or not the next video, but maybe a couple months from now, I will actually take the propagation. But for now, she looks so good down here, I think. She's cute. Right now, she does look kind of wacky, but I hope over the next couple of weeks, the leaves will start to face towards this grow light, and then she will look even cuter. Almost as cute as Pia. Right, Pia? That was a lot of work, but I'm back here in the plant room, and look, it's already dark outside, so I finished all of that just in time. In the middle of doing all of that, I received some plant mail, but I'm gonna unbox this in another video. Do you have any guesses as to what's inside? It's gonna be pretty exciting. It's definitely a wish list plant that has been on my wish list for like forever. Anyway, that's about it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please do hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't yet already, plant scribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.